If you happen to be a nerd who's familiar with South American history, you might know about the War of the Triple Alliance and the basic reasons for it. You most likely know less about the person that caused this war though. Let me introduce you to him. His name is Francisco Solano López. He was born in 1826 to a troubling Paraguay. Luck was on his side as his father was the first president of Paraguay. That didn't mean he was going to sit all day browsing suspicious websites though. At the age of 17, his father enlisted him in the army as a brigadier general. It's funny to imagine that a child was in command of thousands of soldiers in the army. He did not do much here until his father sent him to Europe, where he stayed for a year and a half. He was in awe of the modern military of European countries and knew he had to modernize his country if he wanted Paraguay to stand strong. He especially loved France and Napoleon to the point he would make his army wear blue, like the army of French. This is where the claims of him wanting to be like him come from. He bought arms and steamships on behalf of the Paraguayan army. His efforts in modernizing the military were praised by his countrymen. He brought a guest with him as well, a concubine. She would stay with him until he died. Unlike him, she had a more miserable life, destined for destitution and exile, but at least her grave is respected now. After her father passed away, he was chosen to be the president of Paraguay and brought the country out of isolation by allying with Blancos. They were the ruling party of Uruguay at that time. Not long after, the Civil War happened and the rest is history. Seeing this as a chance to become like Napoleon, the dictator declared war on all of their neighbors to make his empire and become like his idol. Is what you expected me to say. You see, we always want to skew history in a way where it is easier to blame someone. Not everyone wants to research the gray tones of black and white, so they remove the gray once and for all to replace it with just black and white. Was it irrational to declare war on everyone around you and devastate the country to kingdom come? Yes, definitely. Were his worries unfounded? I'm not sure. This is where my sympathy ends for him though. Before going to war itself, we should go back a little in time to see what was the cause of this war. After the dissolution of the United Provinces of Rio de la Plata, which consisted of Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, and Bolivia, these regions squandered over territorial disputes. However, it was not only Argentina and Paraguay who had claims over each other's territory. There was Brazil as well. It also claimed these areas. A lot of times, these areas were not settled by either party and local natives would attack any army in sight. These claims would lead to armed conflicts between neighbors, while agreements over handing over territories were not uncommon with someone mediating in between. Another, and the main reason for the war, was Uruguay. There was a long-running conflict between Blancos, which were conservatives, and Colorados, which were liberals. The leader of Colorados has been allied with Argentina for a while, because they were supported by them during the Argentine Civil War of 1861. Colorados were supported by Brazil as well because this helped Brazil to strengthen its political and economic influence in the region. They could freely settle in Uruguay and own land, which upset the conservatives. They didn't like that Brazil could do whatever they want here. They upheld protectionism and restricted Brazilian immigration. Brazil obviously didn't like this and after pressures from the Rio Grande do Sul administration to intervene in the war, and Argentina would join her later. This is where Paraguay comes in. Blanco's government had no allies other than isolated Paraguay, and López was ready to show the might of the Paraguayan army to both Argentina and Brazil. He was also worried that Brazil was violating the independence of Uruguay, which led him to declare war on Brazil as well as Argentina. Whether he was worried about the independence of his country or he was a narcissist who wanted to build his empire is up to debate. What we can safely say is that Paraguay lost a massive part of its population, as well as claimed territories to both Brazil and Argentina. The worst of all was that neither Argentina nor Brazil wanted to go to war with Paraguay, so López brought this upon himself. He ruined Paraguay by not surrendering, even when the country was mostly occupied by Allied powers. The devastation came from this war affected everyone, and funnily enough, Argentinian President Bartolomé Mitre expected Paraguay to fall within months, but it took years for this war to be over. There's a third idea proposed by some scholars here, and that is the United Kingdom secretly pushing Brazil and Argentina to go to war with Paraguay. Since Paraguay was an isolated country and the UK was seeking to open more markets, then it wouldn't be a bad idea to increase their influence in Paraguay. The UK funded Argentina and Brazil for the war as well. This must be the absolute proof that we are seeking, right? Unfortunately for them, there is little to no proof of this theory, and it has been mostly used by both right and left-wing historians to cope, I guess. It is a slippery slope, and in my opinion, no serious historian should use a couple of sentences from a letter or a conversation to rationalize their delusions. Some British officials didn't like him, but that doesn't prove anything. It just proves that people don't like you. It's not like López hated Europe anyway. He was the man who took innovations from there to improve his country. Some argued about it being cotton production. They argued that because cotton supply to Europe from USA was destabilized after the Civil War, therefore the UK wanted Paraguay to export cotton to them. While this argument is more feasible to hold because it was indeed a severe problem, it also falls short because the UK was a vast empire that could import cotton from their colonies, such as India, Egypt, or a friendly country like Brazil. Especially Egypt. The quality of Egypt's cotton will far surpass that of India, as India's cotton turned out to be a failure and became a major provider of cotton to the United Kingdom. Paraguay's climate is suitable for cotton production, yes, but in no way to be a major cotton provider to the United Kingdom. The only profitable crop in Paraguay was mate tea until the war, and that was lost after neighbors carved this territory. As fate would have it, what López feared for his country happened by his own hands. In the next section, I will briefly summarize the war and the aftermath. The reason that the war was not over within a year is that Paraguay had up-to-date fortifications with a well-armed military. Paraguay also appreciated the advantage of having more soldiers than her enemies. However, as the war dragged on, López ordered men, women, and even children to be enlisted in the army. The resilience of Paraguayans was also an important factor, as they would destroy the Allied forces in the critical Battle of Curupati. It led to war being extended for years. The war started with Paraguay occupying these regions. However, they would immediately lose naval superiority as Brazil's ironclads devastate the Paraguayan navy. This was a fatal loss, as roads did not reach anywhere in these regions, and people would travel by ships the most. López would try to fortify the riverbanks wherever he could, to no avail. Ultimately, López played a big gamble and lost. One of these was hoping that by invading Argentina and showing his might, he would be supported by an important Argentinian federalist, Justo José de Urquiza. However, this didn't work and he was unable to advance further in the region. As it would become obvious to everyone in the army that they were going to lose, López instilled an air of paranoia in the army. Anyone who would dare to doubt their glorious victory will be killed. He will be wounded and killed during the last phase of the war. And so, the legacy of the most controversial figure in South America ends. Whether he was a hero or a deranged individual, I will leave it to your discretion. Let's see how this war affected both sides before wrapping up this video. What happened after the war changed the continent forever. Paraguay lost between 60 to 69% of its pre-war population to war, famines, and disease. They have lost so many men that I would like to give an example to show the severity of the situation. In the village of Luku, now a city, the ratio of women to men was 20 to 1. It also lost 40% of its territory, and these were the places where mate tea was grown. To not collapse immediately after the war, Brazil would give loans to them, which further stamped out their growth. In Brazil, arguably the biggest winner of the war, the government had to take loans from the British, and it took a decade to pay it off, and the prestige that came from this war would be the main reason for the military separating itself from the monarchy. This rivalry between the army and the government would result in the establishment of a republic 20 years later. No democracy for the peasants though. One of the better things that happened was that important steps were taken to abolish slavery once and for all. In Argentina, the war was a negative for the treasury, but positive for unity. The country has been fighting against federalists for decades, but this war united them against a common enemy and cemented Argentina as a nation-state. Uruguay would suffer less from this war with around 10,000 soldiers, but it helped Colorados to settle themselves. Well, the video was almost over, so I hope you appreciated it. If you would like to add anything, please do so in the comments. Now you learned something new to tell your parents during the dinner. Anyway, see you in the next video.